From Eyewitness News, this is Newsmakers.
Welcome to Newsmakers. I'm Tim White. On Monday, we hosted a Massachusetts U.S. Senate primary debate in our studios. Incumbent Senator Ed Markey faced off against his challenger, Congressman Joe Kennedy. This was their third debate of the season, and to overuse a cliche, the gloves came off. Now, the debate was supposed to take place on the campus of UMass Dartmouth, but like everything else, plans had to change because of the coronavirus. We wanted to bring you highlights from that debate, compressing the hour-long exchange down to 30 minutes. I was moderator along with my colleague Ted Nesi. Here now is the Massachusetts U.S. Senate primary debate between Ed Markey and Joe Kennedy. Mr. Markey, Mr. Kennedy, as you both know, there is no strict format to tonight's debate. We're looking for an open and honest discussion of the issues. But if Ted or I feel like you're taking too long or you're not answering the question, we're going to jump in. And Mr. Markey, we're going to begin with you for the first question. As America continues to see protests in the wake of the killing of George Floyd, it once again shines a light on disparities in the criminal justice system. Mr. Markey, as a congressman in 1994, you voted for a Get Tough on Crime bill that created a more punitive criminal justice system. A disparate number of black Americans make up the country's prison population, and experts have said that law played a role. Do you now regret supporting that bill?
Thank you for hosting this debate this evening. Every member of the Massachusetts delegation voted for that crime bill. Every member. That included a ban on assault weapons. It included the institution of the Violence Against Women's Act. Very important changes. It also had in it sentencing guidelines that were totally wrong and have to be changed. And from my perspective, we have to ensure that we correct that. But let me also say this, that when Congressman Kennedy became a lawyer, he decided to go to work for the most conservative Republican right-wing district attorney in Massachusetts in a generation. The prosecutor that Joe Kennedy worked for was someone who did not believe that 3 strikes and you're out is strong enough, did not believe in the legalization of marijuana, constantly prosecuted the most minor of drug offenses, and Congressman Kennedy had to decide where he was going to work as a lawyer. And I don't think it was good judgment, especially as we look at New Bedford and Fall River, and we can see these voices that are being raised up against the status quo in the criminal justice system in our country. I don't think it was good judgment for Congressman Kennedy to go to work for that right-wing Republican district attorney.
Why don't we have you weigh in here, Mr. Kennedy? He's talking about Cape and Islands District Attorney Michael O'Keefe. He has been an outspoken critic of the criminal justice reform. As he points out, when you left Harvard Law School, you could have worked for anybody, but you chose a Republican district attorney. Why him?
I'm not sure I could have worked for anybody, but I appreciate it. But first off, thanks for having me, and I appreciate the opportunity to have this debate. Look, I spent my first couple of years as a prosecutor learning our criminal justice system. And I actually, when I went to work with Michael O'Keefe, of course, we had big differences of agreement. He was a Republican district attorney who hired a guy named Kennedy to go in as an entry-level prosecutor. We, of course, had disagreements. I find it a little surprising, though, given what Senator Markey's stance has been on the need for what he says about criminal justice reform, that he's now actually advocating to say that you shouldn't have progressive prosecutors work in offices. Of course, that's the change we want to see. We celebrate now progressive prosecutors actually using their own experiences, their judgment, their determination on how cases should be.
But did you help campaign against a progressive prosecutor with DA Rollins, who is now the Suffolk County DA? You chose her opponent in a primary. She obviously won out on that. At what point do your actions and your words conflict?
So, Ted, thanks for letting me clarify on that. Tim, excuse me. Thank you. Apologies. Thank you for letting me clarify on that. I didn't endorse in that race. Yes, I go back with one of the individuals in that race, Greg Henning, a long way, but I didn't endorse in that race, and Senator Markey didn't either. So I think what's critical to understand at this moment, when our nation has been wrestling with the wounds that go back decades, if not centuries, is what have we done to try to address it? And let me be clear about this. My own record on this, no one has done enough. Have I done enough? No. Has Senator Markey? No. But the difference is, since I came into Congress, I've been deliberate about trying to tackle those challenges and racial disparities, whether it was one of the first bills I passed on education, whether it's bills I filed to actually address the way in which wrongful death cases are calculated and amounts are calculated, whether it gets to maternal mortality, and whether it gets to access to a lawyer. The difference here, Tim, is that this isn't just a question of Senator Markey's vote for a 1994 crime bill, but the long-standing record of judgment that he's shown. When he came into office, he actually opposed the integration of the Boston public school system. And again, it's not just those positions, it's the fact that there hasn't been a deliberate effort to actually address those structural challenges that he helped codify into law.
Mr. Markey, I'll give you 30 seconds to respond.
No, thank you. Yeah. So it just comes back to Congressman Kennedy's judgment, his choice. He could have worked for anyone. He could have worked for the Innocence Project. He could have worked as a tenants' rights attorney. But instead, he decided to go and work for a right-wing Republican who opposes the kinds of progressive changes that we're looking for. That was a choice which Congressman Kennedy made with his legal career. That's who he worked for. That was not the right place for a progressive to be working.
Do you want to respond to his charge from the 1970s?
If I may, and moreover, in this race, Rachel Rollins, the district attorney of Suffolk County, is endorsing me because I partnered with her in advocating for the kind of criminal justice reform that our country needs. And I'm very proud of having Rachel Rollins' support because she is the embodiment of the kind of change which we need, the kind of progressive leadership which we need. And today, we are partnering together. That's the kind of progressive leadership for the future that we need in the criminal justice system, and I'm very proud of her support in this race.
Congressman, 30 seconds. Please.
Senator, I'm glad to see that you're paying attention to these issues now. You've been in office for 47 years at the state system and the federal system. You were in the House for nearly 40 years, and you've been in the Senate for 7. The images that we see across our television screens, those protests and demonstrations that we have attended, I was in Chelsea yesterday. We marched through the streets with District Attorney Rollins and then held a moment of silence for 8 minutes and 46 seconds. And I never knew that 8 minutes and 46 seconds could last so long. To think of a man gasping for his breath and calling for his mother. And the fact is that what we see playing out on our streets today is the fact that we are right here where we were, which is not all that different from where we were 50 years ago in 1968. And we have not made any progress because the laws and the structures that have been come down as a boot on the neck of communities of color, those are not an accident. They were deliberate, they were intentional, and they came in by choice. And you might be known for some things in your time in office, Senator. Racial justice and criminal justice is not one of them.
All right.
Oh, let me just go. I have to answer that. I have to answer that. Look, Congressman Kennedy had a chance to sign on to Medicare for All when it was introduced. I stood with Bernie Sanders to fight for health care for everyone. Medicare for all. It took Congressman Kennedy 2 years to sign on to Medicare for all. That's not progressive leadership. Congressman Kennedy decided he was going to work for a right-wing Republican district attorney. That's not progressive leadership. Congressman Kennedy decided that he was going to vote to send military weapons to the local police in our country. That's not progressive leadership. Congressman Kennedy had a chance when he gave the State of the Union response to Donald Trump to talk about climate change. Congressman Kennedy did not mention the word climate change in his response. Congressman Kennedy is a progressive in name only. When he gets a chance to lead on Medicare for all, on climate change, on the militarization of the streets of this country, he was not a progressive leader. And when he had to make a decision as to who he was going to work for as a lawyer, he decided to work as a lawyer for a right-wing Republican. That is not the kind of progressive leadership which our country needs desperately right now.
Let me wrap up the criminal justice section of this conversation with a final question. I'm looking for a quick answer on this. And Mr. Markey, I'll direct it to you first. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez recently supported the Defund the Police movement and advocated for funneling money from law enforcement to social service programs. Do you agree with her?
We have to restructure our balance between the criminal justice system and the funding for education, for health care, for job opportunities in our society. Yes, it is absolutely critical that we stop this school to prison pipeline that we have in our country, and that we fund the kinds of programs that young people of color need in our country in order to make sure that they can maximize their God-given abilities.
Do you fund those programs by pulling money from police departments? That's the question.
I think that we have to reallocate the budget. Yes, we need a rebalancing of the budget between policing and healthcare and education and other opportunities. It is time for us to have that debate and to effectuate those changes in our society, and I think that's what everyone in New Bedford and Fall River who are out every single night are saying to us.
Mr. Kennedy, brief response, please.
I think we have to totally reform the way that we police in this country, and that does mean going to our budgets and reallocating those budgets, and making sure that we fund not just the mechanisms necessary to keep people safe, but mental and behavioral health services. It means making sure that you've got folks that are trained to make sure you're addressing the root causes of this and not continue to just put people in jail.
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy, let's turn to a question for you here. A lot of this has been about who can be a better senator for Massachusetts. The University of Virginia has ranked all members of Congress for their effectiveness, and during the 115th Congress, you had a lower score than Mr. Markey, and the second lowest score in the Massachusetts congressional delegation. If they think you're not being effective in your current job, why should you get a promotion?
Ted, so a couple things. One, trying to pass major pieces of legislation when you've spent the entire time in the minority is more difficult to do in the House of Representatives, which is where I spent my first 3 terms in office. What I will say is there's a difference, though, between your ability to file the right bill and get the vote, and understanding the obstacles to change to actually bring about the progressive change that I want to see, which is why I was in nearly 20 states last cycle helping to flip the House. It's why I went campaigning from West Virginia to Indiana to Ohio, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, doing exactly what Senator Warren and Senator Sanders have done. Go out there and try to build a movement so that when we actually reclaim the House, not only could you hold this administration accountable through impeachment, but you could cast votes like as an assault or like background checks and campaign finance reform and government reform and the Paycheck Fairness Act and the Equality Act. That's what needs to happen. And the fact is that when you compare my record about going out and actually trying to actually create the change that is necessary, I was in all those states. Senator Markey was in 0.
But Mr. Kennedy, when you talking to voters as we got ready for this debate, I kept hearing, I'm not exactly sure why Joe Kennedy is running because it seems like they're going to vote the same way on a lot of things. Is there something more concrete you can point to for voters about the difference if they switch senators this fall?
The difference is literally in how we define the job. I believe there's a lot more to this, to being a senator from Massachusetts, than just voting the way that you vote and the bills that you cast. And if you want something concrete on that, let's dive in on into criminal justice. It is not just a question that Senator Markey voted for that crime bill, as we talked about before. And it's not just a question of the fact that he opposed the integration of Boston public schools when he came into office. It's a question of what have you done to actually rectify those decisions after you made them. And the fact is that Senator Markey might be known for several things in office. Criminal justice and racial equity is not one of them.
Let me turn to Mr. Markey. Senator Markey, the Green New Deal has been obviously a major thing you've discussed throughout your campaign. You're co-sponsoring that with Representative Ocasio-Cortez. You'll need Republican support for the Green New Deal to get it through the Senate. You need 60 votes. Out of 250 senators who've served in the last quarter century, the Lugar Center ranks you in the bottom 10 for bipartisan legislation, lower than Elizabeth Warren, lower than Ted Kennedy. Why should voters believe one of the most partisan senators in the nation will be able to get Republicans on board and actually pass the Green New Deal?
Because leadership requires bipartisanship. I have 580 laws on the books, and I needed a Republican every time to get them passed. I'm in the top 5 in the Senate in terms of effectiveness. I took on the oil industry and the auto industry to increase the fuel economy standards of the vehicles in our country. That's the single greatest reduction in greenhouse gases of any law in the history of the world. That's my law. I took on the NRA to ensure that we did not have Chinese assault weapons coming into America, to make sure that the CDC could do for the first time the research on the causes of gun violence in our society. They're both laws. They're my laws. I took on Wall Street on insider trading. That is the law that takes on Wall Street. That's my law.
The Green New Deal is at the center of your campaign this year, and you've been the leader now in the last decade or so on two the biggest climate bills out there. There was Waxman-Markey, and now there's the Green New Deal. In both cases, as we stand here today, you've not been able to pass those. So why should voters have confidence in a new term you'd actually be able to get a big climate bill across the threat, not just talk about it, but get it into law?
Well, because when the telecommunications giants were monopolies, I broke them up. I broke them up. It's my law that unleashed the broadband revolution in this country. No one had that on the scoreboard. I did that. When Alzheimer's reached a point where 5 million Americans had it, I got the law passed in 2014 so that we would find and fund the cure for Alzheimer's by the year 2025. That is the law right now. And back in 2007 on the fuel economy standards, I had to find a bipartisan way of getting that done, and it passed. And the same thing is true, by the way, for appliance efficiency. The Constitution for appliance efficiency, for the air conditioning in this room, for the heating, for the lighting, that's all my law to reduce dramatically the greenhouse gases. They're all my laws. They all passed. They were all bipartisan because I worked across the aisle to get big things done. The congressman has been in office for 8 years at this point, and we are still waiting for a major piece of legislation to be passed by the congressman that merits his promotion to the United States Senate.
I'll let you respond.
So the senator has a very interesting definition of winning. He said he took on the oil industry. Maybe that's why a board member of ExxonMobil contributed to the senator's campaign, as multiple fossil fuel people involved in the fossil fuel industry continue to do in violation of the senator's own pledge, which he only returns after he is notified about it. He says that he's taken on the gun industry. Senator, 100 people die every single day from gun violence in this country. I am a father of a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. I try to visit preschools for my daughter, and we have to run through active shooter drills for what happens if somebody walks into that school with a gun. That doesn't sound like winning to me. We say that you filed a bill to cure Alzheimer's. That's not how curing Alzheimer's works. If that were the way it works, we could end racism today by filing a bill to end racism. That's not how this is done. This is done by building coalitions and changing minds. And the challenge that the senator has is when it came to his seminal pieces of legislation, that cap and trade bill, they couldn't get it across the finish line because you know who objected to it? Groups like Greenpeace and organized labor, core Democratic constituencies that were not there at the table when they needed to be. And because of that, we are still where we are today, all of these years later. And we still don't have the progress that our generation needs.
Mr. Markey, I'll give you 30 seconds, but then we have to move on.
ExxonMobil bitterly opposes the Green New Deal that Alexandria Ocasio and I have introduced because it's an existential threat to their business model. The NRA, I passed that law just in December, 5 months ago, to have research done at the CDC for the first time in history to find the causes of gun violence in our society. And by the way, on Alzheimer's, the congressman could not be more wrong. Research is medicine's field of dreams from which we harvest the findings that give hope to families that they could find that Alzheimer's ever existed. That's what my program does. It's going to be a $20 to $30 billion program to find the cure for Alzheimer's, and research is the key, as it is in every single disease.
All right, I want to do a rapid fire section now. We're looking for just 1 or 2 word answers here, and I'll start with Mr. Markey, and then I'll alternate the order on each question. But again, please be brief. We want to cover a lot of ground here. So, Mr. Markey, do you support or oppose term limits for U.S. senators?
I do not. Elections are the term limits.
And Mr. Kennedy?
Oppose.
Mr. Kennedy, do you support or oppose abolishing the Electoral College?
Support.
Mr. Markey?
100% abolition.
Senate rule called a filibuster usually means 60 votes are needed to pass most bills. Yes or no, should the Senate filibuster be abolished?
If we can't get 60 votes in the Senate after a landslide this year, then abolish the filibuster.
Mr. Kennedy?
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy, do you support or oppose the Mashpee Wampanoag's plan to build a casino in Taunton?
Support.
And Mr. Markey?
Support.
What about the Wampanoag tribe in Aquinnah? Do you support their efforts to build a casino on Martha's Vineyard? Mr. Markey?
Yes, I do.
You do. And Mr. Kennedy?
Tribal rights are tribal rights, yes.
Mr. Kennedy, you criticized your opponent for not signing on to the People's Pledge, which seeks to end third-party spending from PACs in the race. A campaign that benefits would be penalized. We now know a PAC may come into the race to support your campaign. If this issue is so important to you, why don't you do a self-People's Pledge and take the hit the pledge requires, even though your opponent didn't sign on to it?
I rejected the money. I went public the moment that press report came out.
They could still spend it, Mr. Kennedy, if they wanted to.
I told them not to. I went public and said, I don't want the money, I don't need the money, and I don't didn't ask for the money.
Will your campaign take a financial hit if they do spend that money?
Tim, the issue here is that the pledge that I have proposed is the exact same pledge that Senator Markey ran on 6 years ago. Ran on it. This is why change doesn't happen. Because you have progressive leaders that say these great things, and then when it comes down to it, they compromise on their principles. There is no chance for anybody out there that thinks that you're going to be able to deliver on the promise of a Green New Deal or any transformative environmental change. The fossil fuel industry will always outspend you. That's the point of the People's Pledge. That's why he signed on to it, until he didn't. This is coming from a guy that ended up taking a contribution from a board member of ExxonMobil. And if you think that that is somehow excusable, then also understand that my lifetime rating with the League of Conservation Voters is actually higher than Senator Markey's. I am not the obstacle to environmental change in this race.
But what he could do
is take that $200,000 that came in from that super PAC and give it to the Sarah Gideon who's running against Susan Collins, because she is far more likely to block that progressive change than I am.
But you still haven't answered my question. And the question on the table is, would you allow your campaign to take a hit if another PAC came from the outside?
And I've rejected that money, Tim. I've told them not to spend it. I've told them I've told them not to spend it. I don't want it. I don't need it. And to donate it, I told them to donate that money to Black Lives Matter. I don't expect any way that money comes in. I told them not to, and I challenged the senator to do the same, and we haven't heard a thing from him.
Mr. Markey, Mr. Kennedy says you broke your promise from 2013.
Yeah, we need a People's Pledge for 2020. We're in the era of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is eliciting all across our country activists who are seeking to participate in this election cycle of 2020. Environmentalists, LGBTQ, women's groups, labor groups, all seeking to participate, all seeking to have their voices heard in this election cycle. And so, from my perspective, if they want to speak, they should be allowed to speak. No dark money, no hidden money at all. And their voices should be positive as well.
Senator, how
and
do
that's
you know?
That's the only way in which I think this should be conducted this year. But I will also say this, because I heard what the congressman said about the fossil fuel industry getting into this race. The fossil fuel industry spent millions of dollars to defeat me when I ran for the Senate for the first time. The fossil fuel industry believes that the Green New Deal is the existential threat to their business model, that their business model is to the planet. So they bitterly oppose me, they want to defeat me, and there are people all across this country who are ready to come in and to defeat me because they know the Green New Deal is, in fact, the answer to climate crisis on our planet. And so don't raise this issue of fossil fuels, because there isn't a fear that I have or anyone else has, and that's why the League of Conservation Voters has endorsed me, why the Sierra Club has endorsed me, why the Natural Resources Defense Council has endorsed me, why the Sunrise Movement has endorsed me, because they know they can trust me with the deepest aspirations about the climate crisis.
And a board member from ExxonMobil and fossil fuel lobbyists that have given you tens of thousands of dollars that you've only returned after you've been called out. And by the way, because those pledges aren't disclosed, you have no idea so whether that board member donated to you through that super PAC or anybody else for that matter. You have no idea where that money came from.
It has to be completely disclosed.
It hasn't been.
No dark money. There's a reason. The Sierra Club knows what it's doing. They've looked at both of our records. The Natural Resources Defense Council looked at both of our records. The League of Conservation Voters looked at both of our records. The Sunrise Movement looked at both of our records. They all had a decision to make. They chose me in this race because they know that the Green New Deal is the vision for solving the crisis of the climate and unleashing millions of new jobs in order to accomplish that
goal. I owe you 30 seconds, Mr. Kennedy.
And Senator, if you cared that much about the environment, you could have asked those supporters to donate against any one of the Republicans that we have to take out in order to actually act on the change that you believe, so that you say you believe in. But instead, you haven't. I did. That's the difference. And you can't sit here and say that we are going to address the systematic change that we need when the going gets tough. We have plenty of Democratic politicians that say the right things. And then when it comes down to it, that you fold up shop and say, you know what, back up the truck, we'll take whatever we can get.
Gentlemen, we are in the final minutes. We are in the final minutes. Mr. Markey, you've had a lot of time in this segment.
Right.
Gentlemen, we are in the final minutes of this debate. Marijuana quickly become a big business in Massachusetts. Just in Bristol County, nearly 40 licenses have been approved so far for retailers, growers, and manufacturers. Mr. Markey, you were still avoiding this issue as recently as last August when Boston.com reported your office didn't respond to a question about your position on recreational marijuana. Then just a few days after Mr. Kennedy got in the race, you co-sponsored legalization bills. When did you change your mind on legal marijuana?
45 seconds.
Well, I have supported legalization since it passed in Massachusetts.
Did you vote for it in the referendum?
Yes, I did. I voted to support legalization when it was on the ballot in Massachusetts.
Did you make that public?
And I made it public after it passed, but it was something that I came out publicly in favor before Congressman Kennedy did.
When did you come out publicly in favor of it?
And I believe that it is something that also, I might add, should be done in a way in which racial minorities, for the first time, should be able to fully participate in the business opportunities that marijuana is going to present in our state, and that we have to create a banking system that ensures that it's not a cash business, but something that goes through a traditional banking system.
Mr. Kennedy, as you know, some marijuana activists rolled their eyes at your own evolution on this issue because you had been against it and you came out for it the day the pot shops started opening. What changed for you other than that the politics had changed in Massachusetts?
45 seconds, Mr. Kennedy.
The status quo doesn't work. And look, I've been honest about my reservations with this that come largely from my work with mental behavioral health and addiction community and experts there that have a concern, particularly for youth and adolescents and exposure to marijuana. But the status quo has failed, period. And it's particularly failed for people of color. The criminal justice aspects of this we've known for a long time. And so I supported the MORE Act that expunges criminal records, decriminalizes marijuana, and actually makes the investments in communities of color. The difference here is that I've been clear about that position. Senator Markey back in 2013 said that he was actually against the decriminalization of marijuana because it would have trouble then, quote, policing it.
But you were against it at the time, too.
Yes, yes, but I've been clear about my position, and just so that we're clear on this, I came out for the legalization of marijuana over a year ago, long before Senator Markey signed on to those bills.
Thank you for watching the compressed version of this U.S. Senate primary debate between Ed Markey and Joe Kennedy. If you want to watch the entire hour, it's on WPRI.com. An important note, the Massachusetts primary is on September 1st, so that means you have to register to vote by August 12th. I want to thank our debate partners, UMass Dartmouth and Gannett Newspapers of Massachusetts. For Ted Nesi, I'm Tim White. We'll see you next week on Newsmakers.